Hi, I'm Ellie, and this is my movie review of the 2013 film The Secret Life of Walter Mitty for my cinema class. I chose to review this movie because, firstly, I really enjoyed it because it's one of those films that just makes you feel good, and it's a little weird and quirky, so I liked that. But also, when it comes to cinematic elements, there's a lot that this film really does well. And I could talk about all of them, but I think I'll just stick to talking a little bit about the acting, the music, and the cinematography. There is a 1947 version of this film, and also Walter Mitty is based off of a short story written by James Thurber in 1939. So one really interesting thing to make note of is that they were able to adapt the story from over 70 years ago and make it just very relevant to today while keeping the same sort of themes. It was directed by, produced by, and starred Ben Stiller, who I know has played in a huge variety of films, but his most popular films have sort of turned him into what our book calls a personality actor. He tends to play the same kind of bizarre, hilarious characters and carries that persona on in his most popular movies, so we hardly ever see him play someone who's normal or relatable. But he definitely broke out of that persona for this film. It's very well acted. He plays just a normal guy, and he's so perfectly awkward in all the right ways that it makes him very relatable. And if he wouldn't have been able to shed that overly comedic vibe that he can give off sometimes, this movie wouldn't have worked, because it is a story about the adventurous Walter Mitty, but really it speaks to the average human being's ability to go off and be courageous and make your life interesting by your own doing if you want to. So that wouldn't have worked if he had played it as a typical Ben Stiller character. The cinematography in this movie is just something that really drags you in. If anything, you could just watch this movie for the view. A lot of it is filmed on location in Iceland, so there's all of these sweeping overhead views of the mountains and the oceans that'll make you wonder why you've never been there before, and also lots of tracking shots that follow him through just this gorgeous landscape. But I think cinematography is especially important in this film because one of the main storylines is that he's trying to find this photographer who's the last guy left who shoots his photos on film just because he thinks that it's more beautiful and artistic to do it that way. So a lot of this film is about appreciating beauty, and the fact that the film crew was able to capture so much beauty, it helps the viewer really understand the ideals of this film as well while they're watching it. And lastly, music is done very well in this film. There's a lot of powerful music that plays while he's adventuring, and they sort of will take the tunes of those songs like a little bit and play them low key in the background while he's just living his normal city life. And that sort of helps the viewers anticipate that there's this great adventure that's going to happen. Also, the song Space Oddity by David Bowie is a reoccurring element in this film as well, and they use it as a tool to sort of push the adventure along. It begins as an insult towards Walter. They call him Major Tom because he sort of drifts off in his own little world sometimes. But eventually that song becomes his motivation to go off and have this great adventure. So that use of music was very interesting in this film as well. It's a really great movie. It'll just make you feel happy, and it'll make you feel like you should go travel the world and that you can do anything. And I definitely recommend it to anyone. It is a little bit weird, but in all the right ways.